The biggest of Chungai. So, in your opinion, what cult have you covered do you find the most interesting, and what about them do you find so interesting? Honestly, I really like the Heaven's Gate cult. I think that cult is fascinating because, as tragic as it was, for one thing, I don't feel like Doe, the leader, aka Marshall Applewhite, I don't think that he was setting out to hurt people or to gain power. I don't think that's what it was about for him. I think that it was about spreading truth. Of course, he's full of shit, obviously. He never gained guardrails. He never gained the guardrails that you need when attempting to run a cult. If you don't put those guardrails up and keep yourself straight, you go off the extremism cliff, and it ends badly every time. Look what happened to David Koresh and the Branch Davidians. Look at what happened at Jonestown. And look at what happened to Heaven's Gate. They didn't have guardrails. They didn't keep themselves grounded in reality, and it ended the same in every case. That's what happens. So, I think Heaven's Gate is the most fascinating to me, to get back to the question. And I think the reason that it's so interesting, in addition to what I already mentioned, is because they had very odd beliefs. The beliefs were very, very strange and specific. It's a good example, though, of how the big lie propaganda works. The more detail you add to a story, even if it's completely fabricated off the top of your head, the more detail you add, the more believable it is. The more likely people are to believe it. Heaven's Gate told a fantastical story about spaceships and aliens, and they had their own vocabulary and their own terminology, very heavily influenced by Star Trek The Next Generation, which was very popular in pop culture at the time in the 90s. And I think that that is probably the most fascinating thing about the group to me. Truth be told, though, I don't think people are as interested in cults as me, or at least not in the same ways, and not all of them. I'm sure a lot of you guys are as interested as I am, but the reason I say that is because anytime I do a full-blown cult breakdown of the belief systems and the inner operations of traditional cults like Heaven's Gate or the Branch Davidians or Jonestown, it doesn't get very many views on YouTube. It's not very popular. Most people want me to talk about like Greg Locke and Jehovah's Witnesses and Kenneth Copeland and people like that, which they are cults, and those are cult leaders, absolutely no doubt about it. But I don't think people are as interested in historical cults, I guess you could say, as I am. I don't know. I just think the whole thing is really, really fascinating to me. The biggest of Chungai. How do people get this stupid? It's bizarre that they haven't walked in the front of moving traffic thinking God will protect them from harm. I know, I'm surprised by that too. I think that they believe that God would protect them from that, but I don't think they want to test it. So I think somewhere in the back of their minds, their survival instinct knows better in most cases. But there does come a point in a cult member's indoctrination where their belief in the doctrine outweighs their survival instinct. And at that point, that's when it gets dangerous. I mean, we saw evidence of that with Heaven's Gate and Jonestown and other places. I don't know if you guys have actually listened to the audio of what happened at Jonestown, but there is actual full-blown audio. The guy ran a tape recorder, or whatever it was, through the entire process. It was not mass suicide. It was mass murder. Half the people at Jonestown didn't want to do it, and the other half were accepting it. Phelan Schwarzentraub, I hope I got that right, was a reel-to-reel tape, if I recall correctly, and it is haunting to listen to. Yes, you're talking about the Jonestown tape. It was haunting to listen to. I think it's 45 minutes long. The FBI files are public, and you can listen to a lot of the recordings Jones did. Yep, I did a video about Jonestown forever ago, and I listened to the entire 45-minute tape. It is fucking horrific, dude. You can hear people yelling and crying and screaming and everything else, and in the very end of the clip, you hear a shotgun go off where he killed himself after everybody else was dead, or almost everybody. But interestingly enough, there were actually survivors from the Jonestown cult. A lot of them. There were like 70 or so guards who weren't there that day. Also, there were some people who escaped through the bushes, interestingly enough. And they've done interviews. Those people have done interviews with like the news and stuff afterward. Very interesting to watch and listen to what they had to say about it. Just fucking heartbreaking for those people, man. Seriously. I mean, this guy's sitting there smoking a cigarette and telling the story, and you can see the horror behind his eyes as he's like recounting this stuff.
They were forced to take the potion.
The Kool-Aid and cyanide?
Yes.
And where did they take the babies? Into that back area and lay them down?
It is so heartbreaking, man. I fucking hate this stuff sometimes, that people had to go through this. But I feel like I owe it to him to listen to his story, you know? He just went through something fucking horrific, and I feel like I owe it to him to listen. Before 9/11, it was the single largest event that, I mean, it was the event in which the most Americans had ever died in one single event before. And then 9/11 happened, and then that took first place. Jonestown took second place. Anyways, I think it was about 50-50 with Jonestown. Like half the people, their indoctrination outweighed their survival instinct. With Heaven's Gate, on the other hand, there were 39 people who died. The night of March 26th, 1996, I believe. And every one of them was a willing participant. Heaven's Gate brainwashed their people deeper than Jonestown did. I mean, it was fucking deep for them. I mean, some of the males were even willing to get castrated without a doctor. They went to a fucking storage unit. And no doctors, no nurses. They took a fucking scalpel and cut those puppies off themselves. Imagine believing in your religion so deeply that you do that. That shit's fascinating to me and heartbreaking at the same time.